So you're probably here because the title of the video says something along the lines of that I'm going to rank all 10 Spider-Man movies. And I am going to do that. We will. But first of all, I want to talk about the most recent Spider-Man movie that has just dropped, and that is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to the much beloved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And Miles' the story has continued, and it went crazy, and it was beautiful, and I just want to talk about it real quick before we start ranking all of the Spider-Man movies. So the first half of this video is going to be a quick spoiler review to Across the Spider-Verse. Also, it's got to be stated that I walked into this movie pretty fresh, and I fully remembered Into the Spider-Verse because I rewatched it about the same week that I went to go see Across the Spider-Verse. There's actually a movie reaction with my friend Alex, who in the video was watching it for the first time, but I was rewatching the movie, that Into the Spider-Verse that is, in that video. So going into Across the Spider-Verse, I was refreshed with the memories of Into the Spider-Verse. And Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel that is, all I want to say about it is that it is beautiful. The animation style pops off like never before. So many different styles. All the Spider-Men and all their different worlds have different styles. Gwen Stacy's world is very different. Haley Steinfeld, when the interview, said that when they were describing to her what Gwen's world was going to be like, they said it's like a mood ring. If you ever had a mood ring, it like changes colors to your mood. As she's having these deep conversations with her friends, with her father, the colors around her and the colors around the characters in her world changes all the time, and it is absolutely beautiful. And the animation, again, I'm not going to be the first one or the last one to praise it. It's going to new levels in this movie. Into the Spider-Verse took it to new heights, and they were like, let's outdo ourselves and let's go even better. And they did that in Across the Spider-Verse, and I can't wait to see how Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to look, because with these creators behind, you know, the pencil, I guess, it's gonna look amazing. On the topic of Gwen Stacy actually gets a lot more screen time in this movie than she did in the first movie. And okay, I'm gonna jump into just a little bit of a nitpick. I want to point this out, that I think this movie, off the first viewing, this movie is really good. It's so exceptional. And one of my issues with the film is that I feel like the first act, I feel like the movie started off a bit slow. There's a lot of family drama wrapped up in the first half of the movie. It starts off with Gwen Stacy, which leads into the drama that she has in her world, how she lost her Peter, the drama she has with her dad, and then it leads into Miles and the drama Miles has with his parents. So the whole first act is to set up the family dramas that Gwen has and Miles has with his parents. And all of that serves into the story. It's very important for the rest of the film and the rest of the stories for these two characters. I fully understand that, but I personally felt like the family dramas in the first act led to a bit of a slow start. But the movie ramps up very quickly as soon as we start jumping universes and we go to Spider-Man India's universe, who is great too. The animation in his world is awesome as well. And then, you know, we go to this lobby where we meet all the Spider-Men and 2099. The movie ramps up very well. So yes, it does have a bit of a slow start in my opinion, but then it picks up very quickly, and by the third act, we're at the top, we're going full pace. It's great, but the first act, I'd say, a little bit slow start. Giant praise that I want to give this movie is that watching this movie, you know, Miles now has better understanding of the swinging, and nobody really has to learn anymore. In the first movie, in Into the Spider-Verse, you know, Miles was learning how to swing, so he was clumsy, and people were helping him out, so they were a bit clumsy because they had to kind of, you know, be with him. But now in this movie, nobody's helping anybody out. Everybody knows how to swing and fight. And watching this movie, I thought to myself, damn, no live action Spider-Man movie could do swinging like this movie does. The action sequences in this movie truly pop. They're amazing. There's a lot of them, and they're long, and you can really feel Spider-Man's, any Spider-Man, really any of them, their agility, their different fighting styles, the way they just fly through the air. Just hit my mic. Now, animation just lends to so much freedom and so much creativity of what you could do with these action sequences, and I thought the action sequences in this movie were really good, and just loved watching them swing, man. I need a spider to bite me because I need swinging powers. On the character front, all the characters are great. I don't have a problem with a single character. All of them great. Miles is great. Gwen is great. 2099 is great. Jessica Drew is great. Yeah, All of them, great. But one standout that I have is actually the villain, and I really like what they did with the Spot. The Spot starts off as this big joke. He's very clumsy. He doesn't know how to use his powers either. But the Spot was really great because he has a great evolution in the movie. He has fantastic character development. He starts off as this joke. Again, he's really clunky with his powers, doesn't know how to use it. Miles doesn't take him seriously. There's a lot of jokes about him and you're laughing. But once he starts to figure out his powers and he gains confidence and he's like, wait, hold on. I kicked myself into myself and I can enter all these universes and I can do all of this. All I need is more holes. Hold on, wait a minute. It's great because it's a true display of what confidence can do. He becomes extremely confident in his abilities, and that makes him super scary as a threat. He has a fantastic evolution through the movie, a very literal evolution, because in the beginning of the movie, as Miles is cracking jokes at the Spot's like, I'm your greatest nemesis, and Miles is like, no, you're not. And by the end of the movie, Miles himself says, that's the Spot. He's my greatest nemesis. And that right there just wraps up his entire character development in the movie very well with a bow on top. Also, not only are his powers scary by the end of the movie and you know what he can do, his design changed into a very scary thing. He's kind of unsettling to look at. He's got the white skin and holes on his face, black holes on his face. That's scary in general, right? But then at the end, his art style changes and he just looks like a slender man, and it's you know what he can do, and his design becomes even more creepier now. So Miguel tells Miles in that great chase that they have through 2099's world, Miguel tells Miles, he tells him, hey, you were a mistake. You weren't meant to be Spider-Man. And that is absolutely crushing to someone like Miles, because we've seen how excited he was in the first movie, and the whole message about the first movie is that anybody can be Spider-Man. And Miles was like, I was chosen to be Spider-Man, and he loves it. And all these Spider-Men, and he really wants to be part of this group. And can you imagine just all of them look at him and be like, you're not one of us. You were a mistake. You were never meant to be Spider-Man. That's absolutely crushing. In the first movie, when Miles gets bit by that spider 42, he goes back home, and then he goes back to check on the spider. And as he's checking the spider does a little glitch effect, right? And I remember when I first time watched it, when I second time watched it a week ago, I attributed that to the style of the movie, to the animation. I didn't think much about the glitch effect. But now it's brought all the way back that the spider glitched because the spider was in the wrong universe. So that makes me think that actually all of this, the Spot, the spider, Miles not meant to be Spider-Man storyline was all set up very well in the first movie. So that spider glitch was on purpose, and it wasn't just an animation style. And I think that's great. Sequence in the lobby was great as all the Spider-Man are chasing him. There's a lot of them. You see Insomniac Spider-Man from the game. You see, Spectacular Spider-Man. Man, there's so many. Ben Reilly is here, voiced by Andy Samberg. There's a lot. Donald Glover even makes a cameo, which is funny because just last week I was explaining to my friend Alex the whole history with Donald Glover, and one of the parts of the history that I didn't know about him is that Donald Glover Miles Morales was actually based on Donald Glover, or very heavily based on Donald Glover. I did not know that. I do have one small nitpick with all the Spider-Man being here. One of my favorite Spider-Men, who was in the first movie, does not get to shine as much as he did in the first movie. In this sequel, he doesn't get to shine as much, and that is Jake Johnson's Peter B. Parker. Peter B. Parker takes a back seat in this movie, kind of. He's here, and he has a few moments with Miles, but after rewatching that first movie, I thought I need a reminder of just how great that duo was. Jake Johnson, Peter B. Parker, and Shameik Moore's Miles Morales. They were great together in the first movie. Really funny, just a great duo, and I kind of missed them in this movie as a duo. They have little moments together, but for majority of it, they're separated, and Peter B. Parker takes a backseat in this movie. Hopefully, in the third one, he gets to shine more with his little adorable kid that he has. I think that's really fun that he has a little kid, and he's really happy to be a father. That's great. But I would like to see, because again, he really was Miles' mentor. As many jokes as they make of him being a bad mentor, he did teach him some things, and they do kind of have that relationship. And Miles taught, it's very obvious that Miles taught Peter B. Parker a lot about, wanting a family. But yeah, I just felt like him taking a backseat in this movie. I really missed that dynamic because in the first movie they were really good together. One final point that I want to make is about the third act and how this movie wraps up. One of the thing for me is that I walked into this movie knowing that there's a cliffhanger because I know that there is a part two. I had that information already locked up in here, right? So the third act starts. Miles goes home from, the lobby. He escapes. And, he's doing a speech and he's swinging through the air. He's going to go save his dad because the Spot and all of that are coming. And the music ramps up and swells up. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is where the cliffhanger is going to be. This is where the movie ends. And it doesn't. It keeps going, which is great. It's great that it keeps going, right? So Miles gets home. Then Miguel and a few other Spider-Man get on the scene. Music rises up. It's like, oh my god, all the Spider-Man are hunting Miles and Miles is home. What's gonna happen? I'm thinking to myself, this is where the cliffhanger ending is. And no, it does not end right there. It keeps going, which is great again, right? And then this is what's great. So then the big reveal happens. Miles is in the wrong universe because of the spider that bit him, took him to the wrong universe. Aaron Davis is alive. Mahershala Ali, I guess, is back. I'm pretty sure he's still voicing Aaron Davis. So the Prowler, all of that. Miles is like, oh my god, I'm in the wrong universe. And the music ramps up again. And I'm like, this is where the cliffhanger ending is going to be. And no, we're still going a little bit more, which is great. It's great, right? And then there's another reveal. It's like, oh my god, the Prowler in this universe is Miles. What? No way. And they caught our Miles. And he's about to electrocute himself out of these chains that they have him in. And the music ramps up. And it's not over. It still keeps going. Just for a little bit more. And then it's like Gwen, and she has all the spider people, and Spider Noir is back, and Peter Porker is back. Hopefully Nicolas Cage and John Mulaney are back in the next movie to voice these characters. The OG squad is coming back for Miles, which kind of reminds me of Avengers Endgame, where it was like we have the OG characters go on this final mission with some of the new ones. So this one's kind of like Beyond the Spider-Verse, I hope, has the same one where it's like the OG Spider-Man and some new ones. Hobie Brown, which is a great standout. Daniel Kaluuya was really good as Hobie Brown. He's also coming on the adventure with them. So then it's like the music ramps up and Gwen and all these Spider-Men are going to go save Miles. And I'm like, this is where it ends. And then it finally ends. Okay, cool. I said all of this to say that the third act of this movie, as soon as Miles leaves the lobby, it felt like the entire third act was there to set up the next movie. I don't necessarily feel like that's an issue, but that's just something that I noticed, and I want to point out that the entire third act is there just to set up the next movie, and it's like, yep, part two is going to happen. And I really, with the knowledge of like knowing that the cliffhanger is coming and that there is a part two, it just felt like the movie was setting up like 10 different endings, but then it just kept going, and then it eventually ended with Miles being in the chains, but like he's obviously going to electrocute himself out of it because those chains aren't going to hold him. They're just not. At the end of the day, Across the Spider-Verse is a fantastic film that I do really want to rewatch. A bit of a slow start, but it ramps up very well. Beautiful visuals. I caught myself at one point in this movie. There's a wide shot of something, of a world. I caught myself going, damn. And I said that kind of loud in a movie theater. Soundtrack is fantastic. I love the movie score, but the Metro Boomin album is great too. It's not as funny as Into the Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse was hilarious. This movie has tons of funny moments, but it didn't have me dying laughing as much as the first one did. If you want to see me dying laughing, there's a reaction on the channel. Check that out. Hey! Alright, so now it's time to rank 10 Spider-Man movies. I have a feeling I know where I'm going to put this, but we're going to talk a little bit about some of these, and then we're going to do it, right? So here's my tier list. I found this on tiermaker.com, right? So we have Masterpiece up top. Then we have Good Stuff, just a little bit lower than Masterpiece. And then we have Did the Job. It's like, it was all right, it did the job. And then we have Not It. Just wasn't it. Missed the mark completely. So first up, we have Spider-Man 2, which I'm just going to go ahead and put it up here into the Masterpiece section. It is a masterpiece. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man 2. I think Spider-Man 2 potentially is the best live-action Spider-Man movie. So good. Fantastic action sequences. I mean, that iconic train sequence. I do have a movie commentary on the channel for this movie, so if you want to look that up, you can. Yeah, great film. great film. Next up, we have we have Spider-Man 3, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put Spider-Man 3 into not it. I found this movie very frustrating. I remember a few years ago I rewatched it for the channel, also on the channel, and that's important to say because I rewatched it, as a grown adult, and I thought to myself, damn, this movie has some great moments in the first section of the film, and then it really loses track when Venom and Sandman and everybody just kind of collides at the end there. It really loses track. It has some great action sequences, but the story is all over the place, very messy, tons of cringe scenes when Peter goes dark and does the dance and, fights Mary Jane and all of that, and oh my god. What could have been, right? Because Spider-Man 2 was so great, and to follow Spider-Man 2 up with Spider-Man 3, and Spider-Man 3 isn't horrible, but not it. Next up, we have a movie that I actually enjoy very much. I think a lot of people kind of shit on it. There's some people that are not fans of Mark Webb's and Andrew Garfield movies. But the first Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, I'm going to put into good stuff. I like the style of this movie. Visually, this movie looks pretty cool. Andrew Garfield is a really cool Spider-Man. And Mark Webb's and Andrew Garfield movies, the two of them, if there's anything that they did super right, is the swinging sequences. They're fantastic. And I'm just going to put into good stuff. I have fun with this movie. I enjoy this movie very much. And next up, we have the sequel, which is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I'm just going to put it into not it. Overstuffed. It makes sense that it's standing right next to Spider-Man 3 because it's just two Spider-Man movies that are overstuffed with everything. And that having a bunch of these villains and a bunch of these different subplots, not it. Great swinging sequences yet again. Andrew Garfield, really good in this movie. I do wish that he would have got a third one because Andrew Garfield is just great. I think Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man actor, period. Actor-wise, he's the best Spider-Man actor. Next up, we have Spider-Man Homecoming, which I'm just going to put into good stuff. This is a really fun movie, actually. Really great introduction to Tom Holland Spider-Man. I like John Watts' style in this movie. The teen comedy adventure type thing that it has. Michael Keaton is great as the Vulture. And it's a fun movie. With Tom Holland movies, I really don't like the lack of swinging sequences that he has in New York City or the way they're done. They don't feel like they have any flair or any creativity. Just kind of meh, and it's Spider-Man. He's supposed to swing through the city. And if I have a knock to Spider-Man Homecoming, it's that lackluster Spider-Man action sequences. But it is a fun movie. Next up, we have Spider-Man Far From Home, which I'm going to put into did the job. I'm actually not the biggest fan of this movie. I really respect them for taking a swing with this movie and being like, let's take Spider-Man out of New York. That's like an interesting swing. I respect them for trying it. But I think we found out that Spider-Man without New York is just kind of I think the first half of this movie is very average to a point where I don't really care. A lot of sequences in the beginning of the movie, again, where, it's just Tom Holland's Peter Parker hanging out with his classmates in Europe because we got to set them up in Europe. Once the Mysterio action gets going, this movie actually does have an upgrade in terms of action sequences from the first John Watts Spider-Man movie, Homecoming that is. So definitely an upgrade in action sequences, but a downgrade in terms of story, in my opinion here. That whole first section of the movie of him hanging out with his classmates, I don't care. I straight up do not care about his classmates, okay? Don't give me them. I'm just gonna go into Spider-Man 1, and Spider-Man 1 I'm gonna put into did the job. Rewatching this film, I have a lot of respect for this film because it's one of the first big superhero movies, and it's, setting up this superhero boom that we're gonna have, and it does the job. It introduces us to superhero movies, to Spider-Man, to maybe not introduces us to Spider-Man because the comics and animated series, but Spider-Man in live action and what we could do. So, a huge round of applause has to go to Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire and everybody who worked in that movie. I think if you rewatch this movie, you'll notice that there's some points in this movie where it doesn't stand the test of time, but it's still a good Spider-Man movie, and you will always have to respect this movie for what it did to the superhero genre. Next up, we have a movie that I just recently rewatched, like I keep saying, and that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And after my rewatch, I'm gonna have to agree with everybody else and put it into masterpiece. This movie is really a masterpiece. You know, its animation was really groundbreaking at the time, and they even improved on that in Across the Spider-Verse. But the script is really solid in this movie, where in Across the Spider-Verse, I felt like the first act was a bit slow. I never felt like any of the acts were really slow in this movie. I was dying laughing, having fun, tons of great action, great characters. Everybody's really good here, and just a masterpiece in general, an Oscar-winning film that is. I tried to go to the store the other day and buy myself a copy for my collection of movies, but couldn't find one, so I still gotta get that somewhere. All right, so now let's swing back. See what I did there? Swing back into No Way Home. Now, No Way Home, there's been discourse online about people being like, why did everybody switch up on No Way Home? I don't think I ever switched up on No Way Home. People went from, oh my god, this is an amazing movie for when they first saw it, you know, back in December of 2021, to then over time really hating on this movie and really picking it apart. I kind of always thought that this movie is two movies. I can pinpoint you the exact moment where this movie turns up, the exact moment where this movie gets from kind of to whoa, no way. And that moment is when the Green Goblin comes out. The exact moment is when Peter is working on that little thing, he's building something, and then he looks up, and then the spider sense happens. And then there's a great shot of him, you know, the camera is like following him, he gets up, he's looking around the apartment, he walks out, and he's checking everybody out like, who is causing my spider sense to go off? And it's the Green Goblin. And at that moment, as soon as Peter picks up his head, and the spider sense goes, that's when the movie turns up completely. The first half of this movie is bang average. If I ever go back and rewatch this movie again, I don't ever do this with movies, but I wouldn't mind just skipping the first half of the movie because it is kind of bang average. It does have a great cameo from Charlie Cox Daredevil, but that's just more excitement to know that Charlie Cox is back as Daredevil. I will always love this movie for giving me that third act of having Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland all in the same Spider-Man movie. I will always love this movie for giving me that moment because as a huge Spider-Man fan and as a huge fan of all three of them, that was just, oh my god, that was so good. And for that, I'm going to put it into good stuff. But it's like really high in good stuff. Listen, I can't put it with Masterpiece. If I'm going to put Spider-Man 2 and Into the Spider-Verse into Masterpiece, I can't put No Way Home after saying the first half of this movie is bang average. I can't put it into Masterpiece because it's not a masterpiece because the first half of this movie is bang average, okay? But man, thank you so much for giving me those moments with all three of them. That was great. I need more of that actually. So we're going to end this video where we started it with Across the Spider-Verse. And again, the first half of this video was the review for Across the Spider-Verse. And with this, with Across the Spider-Verse, I'm going to put it into Masterpiece, I think. I am. I'm looking at this tier list and I can't justify putting it next to these movies. I can't. Maybe I can justify putting it with this movie, No Way Home. But with these two, it doesn't deserve to be in the same tier list. It deserves to be up here with this movie. I right now think that Into the Spider-Verse I like more than Across the Spider-Verse. And again, I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse very recently, so it's fresh in my mind. So I know what I'm talking about. I feel like Into the Spider-Verse for me is a little bit better than Across the Spider-Verse. It's definitely funnier. But yeah, these are two great movies together. And then when we add the third one, Beyond the Spider-Verse, we could have one of the greatest trilogies ever when Beyond the Spider-Verse drops. I'm excited. So yes, that is my quick tier list of 10 Spider-Man movies. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about my tier list? I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at with it. Hopefully you guys agree. Hopefully you guys disagree. Let me know down in the comments why you disagree. Let me know down in the comments, what did you think about Across the Spider-Verse? Is it the perfect movie with no flaws like many people have said? Or do you think it's great, but hey, there are a little bit of flaws here? Let me know all of that down in the comments. I would love to have a discussion with you about that. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And I'll see you guys next time. Next week, I will be doing a review for The Flash, which is finally dropping. Whoa, that's crazy that The Flash is finally dropping. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.